Welcome back to The Outright Effect, a podcast in which unique perspectives challenge us to be better versions of ourselves. We're two ambitious women who talk about how we like to stretch our creativity and work on self-growth to become better people. I'm Shelly.
And I'm Tempsy.
And today we have a special guest here on our podcast. Kristi Sakaguchi, a Japanese Korean born and raised in Hawaii, is the creator behind Riskit Design. Being surrounded by so many different cultures and communities, her illustrations and products hope to help others express themselves through playful designs while bringing awareness to the importance of identity and self-love. Hi, Kristi. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Welcome.
We're so excited
We're so happy to have you.
I'm really excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. We're so happy to have you on and love that you are so enthusiastic about being our guest. So Kristi and I actually met in around December of 2019. She had her merchandise at an event that I'd went to, and I definitely wanted to take a look around. I had found her on Instagram a couple of months prior and really liked all of her designs around pets and animals. And so I definitely wanted to check her stuff out. So I stopped by her table and actually picked up a custom ornament for Tempsy that Christmas. So if you had been following us for a while, you probably saw a post about that a little over a year ago.
Still one of my favorite Christmas gifts.
Oh, thank you.
So Kristi, tell us a little bit about your business.
So my business, or the company, is called Riskit Design. And funny thing is that when I came up with the name, Riskit is actually just an anagram of my first name. So you can jumble the letters around and it spells Kristi, and that's the only story behind the name. It's not super creative, but it worked out. And so it kind of embodies the idea of like risking it for the dream and like kind of pursuing your passions. And I kind of fell into that name later on in life. But yeah, my business, Riskit Design, is mainly just me as a freelance illustrator. I run my own online store. I have my website where I sell all of my products, which is mainly stickers, stationery. I sell some accessories as well, but I'd love to expand more and put my illustrations on other products too.
Cool. That's so awesome. I really do think that actually, when I first heard your name, I thought it was about like taking risks and stuff like that. So I think it's very fun to hear how you came up with it. And I do think it's really fitting because I feel like that's something that you kind of went through, like a transition into doing your business full time in this past year, right?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
So what inspired you to start a business?
So I actually went to school for business. I graduated from HPU with a degree in business marketing, but I didn't know at the time that I wanted to start my own business. But all through my, job career, I've always worked for small local companies. And I think that kind of inspired me unknowingly, because after I graduated college, I realized that I didn't want to do the corporate thing, even though that's kind of what you're set up to do after you get your business degree, or at least that's what I've been told. But my boyfriend at the time, now husband, he actually had worked for many big corporations, big companies, and I kind of secondhand experienced it through him, and I realized that's not what I wanted. But yeah, so being that I worked for other small local companies, I kind of was fueled by the entrepreneurial community that's really apparent in Hawaii, especially. And I think that carried me into realizing that, yeah, you can start your own business. And my husband was the one who was like, you're really artistic. You could probably sell your art. And that was kind of the beginning of it.
Kristi, I think it's so interesting that you mentioned that because, over 10 years ago when I was in college as well, that's something that I thought as I was taking business classes. I have a business minor. And in those classes, I felt like it was really targeted towards people who wanted to start their own business. But at that time, I really thought that that wasn't me. That wasn't something that I had wanted to do at all. And only in the past couple of years have I been like, actually, maybe I do want to start my own business. So I think it's so funny that you mentioned basically the same thing, like going through those classes, not thinking that you wanted your own business. And look, now you have one.
I know. Yeah, it worked out.
And I also think it's really great that your husband is so supportive and encourages you to do those things that you love to do. I think it's definitely an amazing thing to have someone who supports you and, encourages you to like strive for your dreams. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. That's been a theme through all the interviews that we've had, is that having a good support system is really important.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was the first step that you took in starting your business? How did you get started?
how did I get started? Oh man. It was so during that period of, I call it the limbo period after you graduate college and you're not sure what to do. I actually had a friend she was actually interested in starting a business with me. She actually pursued that business and she's totally successful now. But basically what it was she saw that there was a hole in the market for social media marketing for businesses. Like people needed to learn how to translate their businesses to social media, Instagram, online. And she knew that I was learning graphic design, that I was, artistic. And so she wanted to help other businesses create content for their social media platforms so that way they could focus on, running their business. But now we know that social media is so key to marketing any sort of business. And so she wanted me to kind of be the artistic person for the company that she wanted to start. And we were meeting up for a few months. And actually through that, we realized that I wanted to do my own thing. And she was super supportive of that. She was the one who helped me realize it. And so she actually got me my first couple of logo design clients. I designed some menus, I designed business cards, and I thought I was totally going to be like graphic design focused. Like I thought I'd be working with clients doing service work, but then through all of that, I was actually making stickers on the side for things that I like to draw. And that eventually became my products for my future website. I think at the time I was selling on Etsy though. And it was after that I started to make a little bit more income, and my parents were telling me that maybe I need to start paying taxes on it. And so I then, went ahead and I researched what you needed in Hawaii to do business and got a GE tax license, applied for a LLC. And that was kind of like the big girl steps that I took.
That's cool. Did you feel like it was difficult setting up your own website to like sell your product online, or did you find it was pretty easy?
I think now there's so many platforms that really do make it easy for, like, it's super user friendly. A lot of people use Etsy, of course, like how I did. And, there's Big Cartel and Society6 and all those kinds of platforms. But now I currently use like Squarespace, and it's super easy to use and really flexible. So any sort of business can use them. And so I had no problem personally. It was awesome.
Oh, that's cool. We use Squarespace too for our website.
I love Squarespace.
Yeah. Us too. And our experience with our customer service was amazing.
Yeah, and that totally helps.
Sponsor us, Squarespace. Just
so
kidding.
How did you?
I
know. Sponsor us, please. So how did you make the transition to Riskit Design full time? Because that takes a lot of thought and time and energy, and making sure that you're doing it at the right time. So tell us a little bit about that, if you can.
It's crazy because I was just thinking about it, being that it's the new year and I was really reflecting on 2020. I officially left my day job July of 2020, and then I started doing Riskit Design full time in August. And my story is pretty unique, and it's not like super relatable, but it's just crazy to think that. So in the beginning of 2020, me and my husband, we were sitting down and we were saying like, okay, let's make 2020 like a super good year. Of course, that was probably everyone in the beginning of 2020. We're like, let's make it a super good year. Let's work really hard. And maybe by 2021, you can quit your job. So that was kind of like our game plan. And then I was getting really good sales, January, February, March. And then COVID hit and Hawaii locked down in March. And so we were out of a job because we work in retail. We worked for a clothing store, and that's not essential. And so we spent a couple of months at home, and it was the first time that I was putting all of my time into Riskit. And I had never experienced that before. So it was kind of like an unintentional trial run of what it would be like to do it full time. And it was so crazy because it was like the most fulfilling time of my life, like to have every single day open to allowing me to work on my business or create new designs. And I was just so fueled by the passion, and it ultimately translated to me increasing my sales. And so it was funny that during the time that COVID really hit was the time that my business did the best. And at first I struggled to really tell people that because of course, COVID is such a unfortunate thing that happened, but it allowed me to really work on my business, work on myself. And it proved to me that it was possible for me to make a living off of my business. And it was a huge wake up call. And so when we got called that stores could start opening back up again in June, I ended up telling my boss, who is super supportive of my business. Of course, she is also a small business owner. You know, she was, of course, sad because we have a good relationship, but she was totally supportive and surprised that I did this well. And so I spent all of July working, and it was my last month of working at the boutique. And then I started full time.
Yeah, I would consider that like a blessing in disguise in a way, right? It's like this thing happened and something great came out of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Mhm.
It was awesome.
That's crazy. So, I think you kind of talked about some of the unique barriers that maybe had come up, as you were going through this transition period. Are there any others that you can think of or that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think, well, my first true year of business, which was 2019, I really built the foundation for Riskit by doing events. And so, like how I met you, Shelly, I was doing all of these night markets, I was doing pop up shops and stuff like that. And that truly allowed me to build business relationships and meet all of my customers in person and kind of build that rapport with everyone. And so, in a year of social distancing, I really couldn't do that. And although I'm pretty good at navigating the internet, I really had to rely on social media during this time. And so, and I noticed that's what a lot of, even traditional businesses had to really focus on, was how do they translate, the customer experience to the online platform. So I think that was like a really big barrier for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of businesses are having to rely heavily on e-commerce and social
Mhm.
media where they may not have done so or have needed to do so in the past. So very interesting. And it's great that you kind of stuck to it and overcame it by pushing through. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with your passion for it, right? Like you really enjoy doing what you do, which is
Yeah.
amazing. So how do you keep up with trends or like the ever-changing business environment?
With having a business now, it's so important to be able to be flexible. And I think that was the one thing that I definitely learned during school, was learning how to, engage with your customers and figure out what it is that they want to see from you while also staying true to like what your business is. And so this past year, I think what I learned was that I didn't want to keep up with trends when it came to like designs, because if I was just trying to predict what was going to be popular that week, then it would just be unsustainable. And I'd be kind of working to the bone trying to keep up with, okay, now this is popular and now this is popular. And so I had to figure out kind of what is the core of the designs that I wanted to make with Riskit Design, which is really awesome that my customers kind of know the identity of my brand and know what to expect. But I do think that when it comes to where am I putting these designs on products, then I need to become more flexible. So, you guys have seen that I stopped doing so many stickers, but now I'm doing washi tape and I'm doing stationery, because that's kind of, that is kind of the new trend of like where artists are putting their designs now. And so kind of learning like what is happening in the world, what do people need, that kind of trend is really important. But when it comes to what I'm designing, I like to stay true to my brand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's really cool, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're able to continue making the designs that you love, really kind of like, I mean, that's like your brand, right? The look and feel of like the characters that you draw, whether it be animals or people, or, just like, those other things, those other elements that you include in there. Because I know I've seen, like origami kind of styles and like the Hanafuda,
Mhm.
card sort of styles on your products. But then in like thinking about like what are people actually using, what do they need on a day to day, and incorporating your designs onto those things, I think that makes a lot of sense, because then you'll definitely know it's like usable, like people need it, and
Right.
that they're going to find it helpful to them. So I think that's really cool. And actually now, like a lot of your washi tape that I now have is going all over the inside of my bullet journal and like notebooks, because I suck at drawing. So I need businesses like you who are creating these things that I can just stick wherever I
Yay.
want to like make something look a little nicer. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I think that's really great that you try to make sure you find balance between what customers might be looking for, but also your core business and, who you are as a business and what you want to accomplish, because I think that can be a really fine line to walk, where you could take so much customer feedback and input that it kind of pulls you away from what your core business or who you are stylistically and who you want to be stylistically. I think that could, for some people, take them away from what they were trying to do to begin with.
Now that I think about kind of the products that I carry in my store, I have a lot of product. I have, what I consider to be too many products. And I think it's a result of me trying to adapt to the wrong type of trend, because I was, trying to just make whatever sold pretty much in the beginning, because I was trying to just get my footing as I started Riskit Design. And it did take me like a couple of years, only until like recently, that, I discovered, what did my customers like, but I also felt really good about. And so now kind of like honing it back in and, kind of really allowing my customers to show me what they like. And I think that's why things like the Patreon page that I have is so important, because they're kind of like what I consider my core customer base, and they have the freedom to give me the feedback in a really constructive way. And so that's been really important to me in figuring out like how to remain fresh and flexible in the business environment, but still staying true to myself.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think Patreon is also a great place for you to kind of use people who are following you there as like a sounding board, right? So I think, just like you're saying, that's a great place for you to get feedback. And I feel like I kind of did the same thing with my YouTube channel, like casting a wide net, because I didn't really know like what are people going to want to watch on my channel or anything like that. So I really was just like putting like anything out there. And I think it's a good way to kind of get that feedback and, looking at your metrics, like what sells, what doesn't sell. I feel like, starting off and being broad is okay. And then sort of like niching down after that, once you have like a better idea of, what is it that people like and are attracted to. I think that works. And then, eventually probably a good thing might be to then incorporate some other, more artistic endeavors into your product line or whatever, right? Once people are kind of like, okay, no, I get this. Like Riskit is something that I know, it's in my mind. I remember, I go back to there for X, Y, and Z. And oh, look, now she has different stuff. That's cool, right?
Yeah, totally. I even think about that in the way that I did client projects in the beginning, because, when you're first starting out, you kind of have to say yes to everything, although I don't, like advise people do that. But, if you're basing on financials, then it's like, I took every client that possibly could want me and I bend over backwards for them, even if it wasn't my style or something that I didn't want to draw. And that period's kind of sucks, but it is what, you have to do to kind of figure out what it is that you do like. You have to go through kind of, the junk stuff to find the good stuff. And, eventually I figured out I didn't want to do client work. And then I started doing all of these different products. And it used to bother me that I had all these different styles, because, like what you were saying, I threw a wide net and just saw what stuck to the wall. And, now years later, I was like, okay, I don't prefer client work and I don't need to be doing all these designs. I can just do this small niche of designs that I know my community will really appreciate.
Yeah, that's cool. So, based on this, what would you say is going really well for your business now?
I'm really grateful to say that it is my Patreon page that I just mentioned. And I just like hit the year mark of when I first opened my Patreon, which was in 2019 November 2019 was when I opened my Patreon page. So it's been a little over a year now. And
cool.
I had no expectations of it, because I barely even understood what the platform was at the time that I started. But yeah, it's crazy, because now I'm making the same amount of money that I did at my day job from just Patreon alone.
Yeah, and that's awesome.
When I saw that, I was very overwhelmed in the best way.
Can you give some insights to folks who may not know what Patreon is?
So Patreon is a community-based platform that allows creators to create their own page and design different tiers, which allows their supporters to subscribe to every month or annually now. And it allows them to support their creators financially, so that way they can, whether it be back a project or help them fund some bigger project. And in exchange for that subscription, the creator offers exclusive rewards to their supporters.
That's awesome. So what challenges are you facing right now, if
Personally,
any?
for me, my biggest challenge is learning how to create a healthy work-life balance, which I figured is something that a lot of people were going through once kind of the work at home order came into play last year. But being that as an artist, working from home is, what I do, I still had to learn, like, at what point do I clock out? And, kind of learning to compartmentalize, my personal life or life with my husband or life with my family or just life just to, chill out. And so I'm still learning how to kind of manage my time and my energy on a day-to-day basis. That's been my biggest challenge.
Yeah, I can totally understand that because, and that's something that I feel like all of us, whether we are, used to working from home or, maybe in 2019 and prior, we were used to going somewhere else to do our work. I think, all of us need to consider the sort of bleed that happens in between the two things. And sometimes, I feel a little bit bad personally because I don't respond to things as quickly as I feel like I should be, like on Instagram or on my YouTube channel. And sometimes I wonder if people think I'm ignoring them. But honestly, it's to create that separation where I'm like, I don't want to be on my phone literally all day long. Like I need to kind of, distance a little bit. So I think it's good that you're, thinking about that, being mindful and like being aware that that's something to learn rather than saying like, no, I just need to like throw all of my time into this because I think, that's something that people tend to do as well. But we also need the time to kind of like refresh and like, have that creative thinking space, right? Like I saw you posted a video recently where you went to the art museum and you're just like taking things in. And I think that's really good for, the work that you do because it is artistic, right?
Yeah, I think that's another big reason why I have the lines so blurred, which is really, it's really hard to distinguish it because, my work is ultimately what I love to do. Like I'm really passionate about art. And it's so funny because in the midst of like, transitioning to going full time, I started seeing a therapist recently and she was actually asking me like, what do you like to do for fun? What are your hobbies? And I was like, art, but I know that's my job too. So does that count? And so I was kind of like, not really sure, like if, I had to make sure that I was still doing things for fun and that I was still enjoying the work that I do and also finding things outside of anything connected to my business,
Yeah, and I also think that's a great opportunity for you maybe to even consider exploring other things that you might consider hobbies, right? Hiking, whatever, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think, you can also draw inspirations from those other types of experiences too. And honestly, that's something I'm trying to do a little bit more as well, like walking around outside and stuff, which is really bad because I'm also trying to be healthy. So what would you say helps you stay motivated? I know that, you've had a lot of stuff going on. From what I can tell on your social media platforms, you seem like a motivated individual, trying to create new products, pump stuff out, have like really fun promotions and things like that. What is behind that for you?
I think, with what I was saying about, learning to not follow trends and staying true to, the identity of my brand and my company and myself too. I think what keeps me motivated is every time I produce a new product and I get, direct messages or people emailing me, telling me, what that design meant to them. So especially with the things that are, whether it be related to being an Asian American or being, Hawaii born or being in the LGBTQ community, I get messages from people saying like, this meant so much to me because it relates to my identity and I don't get enough representation, in sticker form, and it's funny because one of the things that my family says is, I can't believe you make a living selling stickers. Like, I think that's the funniest thing that they've ever said, but it's, kind of the truth. And I know I owe that to the fact that stickers are a product that people put on their phones, on their water bottles, on their electronic devices, and it becomes like an extension of their identity. And that's kind of where I learned that that's for me why stickers sell, and so
Yeah.
I think when I get people that message me saying that like the things I create really connected with them, it resonated with them, it was nostalgic or something like that, I think that motivates me to continue creating stuff, because at first I was just creating stuff that I liked or that represented me. But then I realized there was, a huge community of people that, we're all in the same boat. And so I'm also, not only feeding myself, but I'm feeding them too.
Yeah, and one thing I will say about that, so that's one reason why I had to like jump on buying your Hanafuda washi tape. So
Yeah.
yeah, so for people who are not familiar with Hanafuda, it's like this old Japanese card game where everything is like pictures and you like gotta match them up. And I grew up playing that as like a little kid with my family on my mom's side. And so it's something that I haven't played in like a super long time. Like I feel like I forgot, how to do it. And I definitely need to do some research on how to play again because I would want to. It's not something I want to like lose, the not skill. I mean, I wasn't skilled at it, but I don't want to lose knowing how to do that. And so yeah, I saw it. I was like, oh my God, I need this thing. Like I need it so badly. It reminds me of my childhood.
I'm glad.
And can I just tell you how beautiful it is that, you're focused around representation and helping people connect to their past or nostalgia. That's just so beautiful, and that you're able to bring that out, especially right now in things that are going on in the world. So such a beautiful thing that you're doing, and you didn't even, set out to do that. I'm guessing it's just like a natural product of the art, the beautiful art that you put out there. So it's so amazing.
It definitely wasn't my intention to begin with, but it was one of those things that as it continued to happen, it became what I was passionate about. And so, when you find your passion, it's really addicting and you just go for it.
For sure.
That's why we do this podcast, to find our purpose. And so you're an inspiration to us to get there. So let's dive a little bit more into like the business side of things. Something that boggles my mind sometimes is metrics, how you track your business and how you know what you're doing is impacting your business in the positive way. Like,
oh yeah,
how do you do that for your business?
That also boggles my mind. That's something that I am setting out to be better about in 2021 for sure. It's just paying more attention to the numbers and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think what's nice, shout out to Squarespace again, is that they make really good analytics for your website. As a product focused business, Squarespace creates really nice graphs showing how many units sold, how fast did they sell, where did people find my website, where are they coming from? And so that kind of stuff is really important to me because it sees, or it shows me if they found me through Instagram or YouTube. And from there, did they take a chance to look at my Patreon page, or did they take a chance to look at my YouTube page if they didn't? And so I like to see what platforms are kind of leading to one another. And being that Patreon is something that I've really worked to build on last year, and I want to continue to focus on that, you'll see that, I post a lot about it on Instagram, and I see how often do I mention on Instagram, do people actually follow through and support me on Patreon? And so a lot of the things that I'm looking at recently haven't been truly like the actual numbers, like my revenue, although that's really important because it's my only stream of income right now. And so I am paying attention to that in a sense of making sure my expenses are covered and I have money to, produce new products and stuff like that. But for right now, I am focusing a lot on building my Patreon page because it's the one thing that provides consistent income for me, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's great. I also think that some opportunities that I feel like you're probably tapping into now in regards to Patreon is like having a tier that has like digital products that, your Patreon subscribers of that tier can get, because I feel like in that way it's unlimited, right? Like you don't have to worry about having X amount of, whatever product to send out to that tier because what they're getting is electronic. So I think that's a great opportunity there to grow that tier, right? So that's cool.
Yeah, it's another thing too of like, learning what sells, going back to that again of like, kind of every time I try a new product to see, how well did washi tape do, in the last couple of months? Should I do a new washi tape? And so kind of things like that when it comes to trying new products. And yeah.
You know, one thing I'll say, because I'm in that digital tier on your Patreon, I was like, man, I wish I had a color printer because I don't. And I was like, I could have printed out this January template and cut it out and put it in my bullet journal too. But yeah, I'm like, shucks. And then, I thought to myself, like, should I get a color printer now so I can like take advantage of this? So is there anything exciting if you feel so inclined to mention? Because I know sometimes people like to keep things under wraps as they're working on it. But if there's anything that you'd like to share that's coming up that you're excited about this year, what might that be?
Oh man, there's a lot that I was looking forward to in 2021, and I will hold on to some of that information. What I will say is that I'm really excited to be working with other companies this year. I do have some partnerships that I'm doing with big name brands and also some small local businesses that I've been dying to work with. And so I feel like I've been waiting for 2020 to roll over so we can get to this year and I can do some of these like bigger projects that I'm super excited about. But also just for Riskit Design personally, I'm really excited now, really knowing like what I want to do with this business, like moving forward, creating products that are going to mean a lot to me and my community, and really just focusing on the things that I'm really passionate about. That's honestly what I'm excited for.
Yeah, that's cool. Actually, I think I know one of the things that you're talking about, but I won't release it in case it's only for Patreon members. But I'm looking forward to that too. I want to see how it turns out. Let me know when it's available because I want to look for sure.
Sometime in March. Keep your eyes out in March.
Okay. Awesome.
And what a great place to be in, that sweet spot of where where your business is, where it's headed, you're excited for things to come. I think that's like the sweet spot everyone who has or has recently started a business, that's what they're like looking for. So congratulations for getting there.
Yeah, thank you.
That's really awesome.
It's funny because Shelly mentioned that I took time off in December and I realized how important it was because it allowed me to kind of remember all the things that I accomplished, because I'm one of those people that is just like keep my head down and work. And my husband, thank God for him, because he's always the one who reminds me like, man, even though you're taking a break in December, like you have clients lined up for January, you have projects lined up like as soon as the new year rolls around and you're refreshed. And yeah, like even this podcast too, it's the first thing that I got to do this year and I was really excited for it. And so it's really helping me like get on that ball of like, this is going to be a good year. We're going to make it a good year.
Yay. Awesome. Well, we're glad that we were on your top list of things to do in 2021.
Totally.
So what are your overall goals for your business? Whether that be, 3 years, 5 years, or just holistically, like what are your goals?
Of course, kind of the overarching goal is just to continue growing and to continue doing the things that I love and really staying true to myself. I think, as companies grow, I just don't want to lose myself, in any sort of way. And so always staying true to the purpose of my business. But in like a bigger sense, my ultimate goal is to make enough income so that way my husband can work for me too. I know I had someone ask me if I someday want to like have my own studio space and hire an assistant or something like that. But I think the ultimate dream for me right now would be to like, double or triple my income so that way just me and my husband can run Riskit Design together and not have to worry about our finances. And I think that's like the ultimate dream right there.
That's really cool. I definitely, wish you the best in achieving that. I totally think you can. So go forth and do it. Yay.
Thank you.
Yes. We're 100% behind you.
Make it happen.
Yeah. Kristi, is there anything else that you might want to add? Any sort of like tips and tricks or words of advice, anything in general?
I think if there's anything that I want to say, it's kind of been my theme of a lot of my answers in this interview, but it's staying true to yourself and what you're passionate about. I think that's a big reason why I've found success in my business, because the things that I make, anyone can make. Stickers isn't really like a unique commodity or anything like that. But I think having a sense of purpose and identity is what connects you to a community. And I'll never take that for granted. And I'll always attribute my success to that. So if I had any advice, it would be for people to really know themselves and to create something that they're really proud of.
Awesome. That's amazing. I think that's great advice.
Yes, and I am just falling more and more in admiration of you. I'm totally inspired by your story, and I just so appreciate you coming on and speaking with us because it's just so interesting, and you're just such a positive and uplifting person in general. As far as I can tell, I haven't been able to meet you in person, in person because of COVID or anything. Or actually, it's probably because I live in Las Vegas. But hopefully, one day I can meet you in
Thank you so
person.
much.
I just want to echo that as well
Yeah, of
because,
course.
I think stories like this are very inspiring. I think, hearing that someone was able to transition from like a full-time work environment into doing something that they want to do for themselves. I love hearing stories like that. So yeah, thank you, Kristi, for coming on here and sharing your story with us and with everyone else who's listening.
Yeah, thank you guys again for having me. This was so fun.
Okay, so Kristi, we're going to go into what we call like the rapid fire, quick fire questions part of our interview episodes. So we like to ask some pretty, recurring questions so that listeners out there can get similar questions answered across the different interviewees that we've had on here. So are you ready to get started?
I'm ready. Bring it on.
All right. So here is the first one. I think maybe you talked about this already, but if there's anything else you'd like to add, what is one piece of advice you would give someone who wants to start a business?
I think if I had any other piece of advice to someone who is about to start their business or work on starting a business is to treat it like a business, like from the get-go. Because I think that was one thing that I wish I did from the beginning. I wasn't sure if I wanted to turn it into a business, but if you're really sure, then I wouldn't treat it like a hobby. I would treat it like a business from the start.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. That makes sense. All right. Also, something that we talked about earlier, what is your creative outlet?
Oh, I think right now, speaking of hobbies, I guess this is kind of a hobby for me too. Making videos for my YouTube channel because, it's a small channel. I'm not getting monetized or anything like that. I don't have sponsorships. There's no money involved. And I just really like making videos. And, what I like to do with my business is ultimately share stories through the things that I make. And video is the best platform to share a story. So I think that's my favorite thing that I've been doing lately.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I really like your videos too. I love the monthly recaps and even like the shop videos and stuff. I think that's really fun. So thank you for sharing.
Hey.
All right. And the last question is, where is your favorite place to travel or what does your dream vacation look like?
Oh, so me and Johnny got married this past July, which was the same month that I was quitting my job. And it was my dream that we would honeymoon in Japan because I've never been. And I've actually never really left the island too much either. So honestly, anywhere would be fun. As long as I'm enjoying the company of someone I love, that would be really awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And I think you would love Japan. Definitely one of my favorite places to go. I think you would I think it would be a very inspiring, artsy trip for you, really.
Oh man,
Is what
yeah,
I
I
think.
will
Yeah.
write it off as a business trip for sure.
All right, great. Well, thank you for answering those rapid fire questions. I think it was really interesting to hear those, your answers.
Yeah, thank you.
Kristi, we do, of course, want everyone to be able to find you. So if you'd like to share your website, Instagram, YouTube channels, or anywhere everyone can find you, please do so.
Yeah, you can shop my website, which is riskitdesign.com. It has all of my products there. Also a little bit about me and my very outdated portfolio. I should update that, but that's also there for you to view. But I am the most active on Instagram, which you can find me at Riskit Design. I'm also on YouTube, like I mentioned, which is also under Riskit Design. And I'm on Patreon if you'd like to get some exclusive content and products, which is patreon.com/Riskit Design. Very easy.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's Riskit for anybody out there who is wondering. Riskit. Riskit Design.
That's it for us. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Outright Effect. You can find us at theoutrighteffect.com. Follow us on our social media accounts on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all at The Outright Effect. And you can also reach out by emailing us at theoutrighteffect@gmail.com. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.